Isn't it a great day that here we are, Christopher Columbus brought us to this new world, and later it became, many years later, became the United States of America, and gave everyone an opportunity to have a voice, even those who did not agree with us. And I want to say that I feel strongly about the contributions of Christopher Columbus, and I know, as all of you, most of you out here do as well. So today's a day of celebration.
Mr. Vivolo, why don't you summarize the various activities that took place this year?
It's been a great year. We have very fortunate to have had the great Grand Marshal in Leonard Riggio, the chairman and founder of Barnes & Noble, Laura Forese, who is the COO and executive vice president of Presbyterian Hospital, and a gentleman by the name of Thomas Iavino, who is a philanthropic guy who is in the contracting business and built the Second Avenue subway. We started out by having an event at Italy downtown, and there we had the governor and several other dignitaries, and we gave that night the attention to our Grand Marshal honorees to the general public. We announced them, and it was a wonderful evening. We followed that up by our incredible gala on Saturday with almost 1,000 people at the New York Hilton, where we had Cardinal Dolan give the invocation, and we had Governor Cuomo once again give an incredible speech in reference to our Italian culture and heritage and the preservation of Columbus Day as well as Columbus Circle. During that evening we had, of course, the Grand Marshal. The honorees all made speeches, and including myself, and it was a grand evening for all. It was really spectacular. It was a great evening to show our pride in our heritage and culture, and it was befitting for the great event, especially this year being the 525th anniversary of the discovery by Christopher Columbus. And then on Sunday we had the event at Columbus Circle honoring public servants, Italian American public servants. And once again, we had the honorees and the Grand Marshal speak, as well as the Consul General, Francesco Gagliardi, and it was a very good event. Many Italian Americans were there. And on Monday, we go to St. Patrick's Cathedral at 9:30 for Mass, and of course there was Cardinal Dolan, who gave the Mass, and it was a Mass that, for me, is probably one of the most memorable parts of the weekend. It has over 2,000 people, and it's something that's so memorable. It's really heartfelt by everyone who attends. After the Mass ended at around 10:30. We all went to the beginning of the parade, which is at 46th Street. The parade is on air from noon until 3 o'clock. We have 35,000 people who march in the parade. I believe that Christopher Columbus in heaven was praying for us, because he wanted this 525th celebration of his discovery of America to be very significant, and I believe it was. So we look forward to many more celebrations in the future, and we will stay strong and firm in preserving Columbus Day and preserving the Columbus Circle and the statues.
You are looking at Manhattan Island prior to 1600, the way that Verrazzano would have experienced when he discovered New York back in 1524. Early in the 1600s, Europeans began to arrive and colonize Manhattan Island. It was the Dutch who colonized this island as New Amsterdam early in the 1600s, and you are looking at what the colony looked like, and the Fort Amsterdam, which was the center of the colony, and the flag that flew high above it. It was on June 2nd, 1635, that Pietro Alberti, a young adventurer from Venice, arrived here. It was then called New Amsterdam, and became the very first Italian New Yorker. The illustration you're looking at would be much like the ship that Pietro Alberti would have traveled here in, and much as the colony would have looked, ruled over by the notorious Peter Stuyvesant, who Alberti would have had to present himself to. You're looking at Lower Manhattan and Bowling Green today, Bowling Green in the center, the exact same area as the colony would have been, minus Battery Park. Bowling Green Park, the oldest public park in America. You're looking at an illustration of a famous moment in American history, the celebration of the Declaration of Independence in New York City on July 9th, 1776. You're seeing now a celebration of the ratification of the U.S. Constitution at Bowling Green. This is an illustration of Bowling Green at about 1900. Moving forward to 2009, the 375th anniversary of the arrival of Pietro Alberti here, we were able to rescue from a garbage pile a famous monument, the Pietro Alberti marker, who the well-known, well-respected, legendary John LaCourte Sr. had created in the 1950s and placed in Battery Park, later removed and put into a garbage dump. We were able to rescue it here at Bowling Green for the 375th anniversary and place it within the park at the very spot where Pietro Alberti would have first stood when he came to New York City in 1635. And facing the center of the fountain, the very spot where the New York colonists celebrated independence by destroying the statue of the King of England, which stood in the middle of the park. We gathered here on June 2nd, 2009 in a glorious celebration of Republic Day and the anniversary of the arrival of Pietro Alberti at what is today Bowling Green 375 years ago in 2009. And we raised the Italian flag high over New York City, as we have time and again here, both for Republic Day and in honor of Columbus Day and at other important occasions. After the flag raising ceremonies, we all gathered at the Alberti marker in Bowling Green Park for ceremonies and the placing of a wreath with then Consul General Tillot. It was a glorious, memorable day.
Welcome everyone to Bowling Green for our flag raising every year for Columbus Day. Every year, October 12, 1492, in the arrival of Christopher Columbus, and also the great heritage of the Italian-American community, especially here in New York City. Here at Bowling Green is where New York City was founded. Particularly significant today, Bowling Green is where the first Italian New Yorker, Pietro Alberti, arrived in New York on June 2nd, 1635. He was the first, of course, of millions and millions of Italians to come to New York. New York City is certainly Italian America, and it all began with Pietro Alberti. But today, we have a special guest for the flag raising, a notable leader in the Italian American community, and best known of all by most Italian Americans for he and his organization's wonderful ceremony on the Sunday before Columbus Day at Columbus Circle, which is the most important monument to Christopher Columbus and the Italian American community anywhere in the United States. It's my great pleasure to introduce the President of the National Council of Columbia Associations, Joseph GUAGLIARDO. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Mr. Piccolo and the organization for having me here to do this. This is a wonderful and honorable thing to be able to do, especially for Italian Americans. It's very important, it's essential that we look at these events seriously throughout the city, not only at the Columbus Circle, but downtown and throughout the city. And we have to be able to understand that it's important, it's essential in a nation of immigrants for us to respect each other's rights, to be able to exercise each other's First Amendment rights, and to be able to respect each other's rights to engage in our practice. But it is important, as we respect everybody else's rights to engage in their practice, they should respect ours. We should be adding monuments, not taking away from them. And that's where we're hoping the future goes. So, if we can start now, Arthur, I'm ready.
Italia, Italia, la destra, del modificio, che ci alla destra, bella vittoria, e forca la chioma, che schiava di Roma, il Dio creò. Già faccia forte, son pronto alla morte, l'Italia chiamò. Già faccia forte, son pronto alla morte, l'Italia chiamò. Sì!